And I call this Sawyer County Zoning Committee meeting to order. And before we get started here, has everybody filled out their appearance slips that wish to speak on a specific agenda item or into public comment? Okay, Kathy, can we do roll call?
Ron Buckholz.
Here.
Tweed Schuman.
Here.
Thank you. Kay Wilson. John Saralski.
Here.
Marshall Savitsky, sorry.
Here.
Steve Carrianen.
Here.
You're here.
Okay, thank you. Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, all right, number C, the agenda's been presented and there's a few changes on it. There's some withdrawals, but we'll get to them as we go down through the agenda. Number D, statement of committee and hearing procedures and statement hearing notice. The full commitment of this committee and hearing procedure document, including directions for individuals wishing to speak at a public hearing to be conducted at this zoning committee meeting, are available in the back of this room next to the agenda for today's meeting. The statement of committee and hearing procedure documents is hereby incorporated into the record for this committee meeting. Any public hearing conducted at today's committee meeting has been published as a Class 2 notice in accordance with Chapter 985 of the Wisconsin statutes in the state or in Sawyer County Record and the Sawyer County Gazette. Okay, number E, I need a motion to approve the minutes for the June 2024 meeting.
I make that motion.
Okay,
I second that motion.
we have a motion by Ms. Wilson and a second by Mr. Saralski to approve. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries. All right. Public comment? What do we have, Jay?
Do you want to read the specifics of public?
Well, yeah, I can do that. Please note that the comment time is intended for general public comments, not comments relating to a specific application before this committee. Each agenda item requiring a public hearing will have its public hearing conducted just prior to the application being considered by this committee. If you wish to speak on a specific agenda item, we encourage you to hold your comments until then.
First I have for public comment is Linda Zilmer.
State your name and address and you have 3 minutes.
Good morning, Linda Zilmer, Edgewater property owner, resident of the village of Birchwood in Washburn County. My public comments today have to do with the zoning processes that take place between the application time and then this public hearing. This month, there are several unusual and potentially controversial agenda items that have a wider public interest than just the people who are notified within 300 feet. There's a waste transfer station in the town of Hayward that deals with construction materials, which could include hazardous waste such as asbestos. There is a proposed detailing shop on a private on-site wastewater treatment system that could be dealing with volatile organic compounds, solvents, and acids. And there was a campground expansion in Hunter and a rather unusual situation in the town of Round Lake that was both island development and a youth camp that conflicts with terms of the zoning ordinance language as it exists now. The Class 2 first insertion was missed in the Sawyer County Record, although I understand that the county is continuing with the past advice to consider a publication in the Gazette as meeting the Class 2 requirement. But the information was not posted on the county website, whether it's be the agenda or the materials, until July 11th. At that point, towns have already met, both their plan commissions and their town boards. So really, the public has had not much of an opportunity to provide input at a town level. And that's why sometimes when you get to the public hearing stage at this point, you'll have members of the public saying they had no idea of what happened. In the administration committee, there was discussion with you, Mr. Chairman, and two previous members of this committee that Class 2 notice is just checking a box. No, it's not. So please, before you set your 2025 agenda for meetings, please consider the whole process and notification. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. Okay. Anyone else?
Anyone online wishing to make public comment? You'd have to raise your hand.
Anyone in the audience want to speak on public comment? Yep, come up, state your name and address, and you got 3 minutes.
My name is David Friend. I currently live at 15807 Laura Drive here in Hayward. As far as my detailing shop, I did everything in my ability to notify all surrounding property owners, even going about getting signatures.
Excuse me, sir, but aren't you on the agenda for the rezone?
Yeah. Was
You don't have to do it now. You can do it when we get to that.
okay. Sounds good.
All right.
Sounds good.
Sorry. Thank you.
Any additional public comments? Seeing none and seeing no hands raised, we will move into the rezone applications. This is a public hearing in the town of Hayward, rezone number 24-009. Owner David Friend, part of the northeast one quarter, the northwest one quarter of tax ID 44295. It is 2.01 total acres, zoned residential recreational 1. Purpose of the request is to rezone the entire 2.01 acres to commercial 1 in order to build an auto and marine detailing shop with living quarters. This would be a permitted use under the commercial 1 zone district. As part of my staff report, we should be looking at the additional maps included in this packet, but this property is located near the Big Fish Golf Course. The surrounding properties to the north, south, and west are currently zoned RR1. The property to the east across Sheptick Lane is zoned Commercial 1. This would not be viewed as spot zoning. There are several other commercial uses in this immediate area. The future land use map for the town of Hayward shows this area as rural transitional. RT is defined by the town of Hayward comprehensive plan, are areas to identify certain lands in proximity to developed areas to be preserved mainly as forestry and open uses until such time as a more intensive development may be appropriate. Areas within the RT classification shall be transitioned and new development shall be limited in accordance with all town policies, including the highway corridor district. Appropriate Sawyer County base zone districts within the RT future land use designation does include the commercial 1, and the town does not require an amendment to the comp plan if the town determines that the new classification is appropriate for a more intense development. As per action by the town board, motion was approved. Ben Kurzweil, but didn't check yes or no. Andrea Whitward, yes. Carol Williamson, yes. Gary Inhofe, yes. Brenda Detloff, yes. Additional comments, it would be compatible with the surrounding uses in the area, signed Brenham Town Clerk. There were 7 additional notification letters sent out to adjacent property owners within 300 feet of the subject property. 0 additional comments were returned to our office. That is all.
Okay, thanks, Jake. All right, I need a motion to go into public hearing on rezone number 24-009. Mr. Soralski.
I'd make that motion to go into hearing.
I'll second it, Chairman.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Soralski and a second by Mr. Karayan to go into public hearing on rezone number 24-009. All in favor, say aye. All opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries. We are now in public hearing. The applicant, now you can come up and speak to us. Thank you. Well, that's all right.
I guess my only comments were I did to the best of my ability to notify surrounding property owners, as well as the statement regarding certain solutions used to clean things. Nothing that I use can't be just purchased at L&M or Walmart or any regular retail store. So there's no secondary level licensures or chemicals that I use to clean anything. That's, from my understanding, I'm not a organic chemist, but from from my understanding, that would be any more harmful than any residential user could use, so. That's all I have to say. Thank you for the time.
Okay. Anybody have any questions for the applicant? Okay. Anybody out there would like to speak in opposition or in favor of this rezone? Ms. Zilmer?
Linda Zilmer, Edgewater property owner, Village of Birchwood resident. I'm not speaking in favor of or in opposition to, and just to be clear that my comments during public comment were about the process. What I do have a question about, and I'm just using this as an example, and it has nothing against the applicant, is that, as I understand, that this would be a detailing business. It would be inside an enclosed building at some point. And that there would be no storage facilities, yet in the version of the staff report that I read on July 11th, the staff report under the summary alludes to storage facilities, and I don't think that's what the applicant asked for, so please address that in your discussion. The other thing that when I mentioned about volatile organic compounds and acids and solvents and things, yes, you can purchase them at the store, but it's the quantity of use when you do it as a commercial operation. So for instance, Seasonal Power Toys, which is in the town of Edgewater on the dividing line between Washburn and Sawyer County, and also within the village's only wellhead protection zone, or I should say for our only municipal well. DSPS requires a two-stage pout system when you have certain kinds of commercial operations that use certain oils, degreasers, solvents. And what's not clear to me is whether the applicant has investigated that the products that you can buy at the store, but in the quantities used, does the state require that he have a two-stage pout system? And I think that that should be clarified. And then my question is too, is who actually monitors? If there's a problem with groundwater in the future, is it up to the county to monitor? Is it up to DSPS? I guess I would rather that your decision be proactive instead of dealing with a problem down the road. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, anyone else out there would like to speak in favor of this rezone? Anybody online, Jay?
Seeing no hands raised.
Okay, all right, does anyone out there like to speak in opposition to this rezone? Okay, if not, I need a motion to come out of rezone, public hearing on rezone number 24-009.
I make that motion.
We have motion by Ms. Wilson, and I will second that motion to come out of public hearing on rezone number 24-009. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All
Aye.
opposed? We are now out of public hearing.
This is the discussion action for the Town of Hayward rezone number 24-009. Owner David Friend, legal description is previously read into record. Again, this request is to rezone 2.01 acres of RR1 to Commercial 1. As part of the discussion action, we did hear some additional comments from the applicant and from the general public. Again, this is a rezone. This is not something that you could condition as part of approval. Now, his intent is to have a detailing shop. But if that business plan doesn't work out, this property is still potentially to be rezoned as commercial. So any other permitted commercial use could occur in that zone district. So you can't condition that he needs to have the wastewater dealt with, or that he can only have X size of a building, or the use can only be X. This is a rezone request to rezone from residential recreational 1 to commercial 1. And that's the important aspect to take away from this. You can't anticipate what the future use would be. You really just have to take the applicant's word as to that's what they're looking at doing at this time. Just speaking a little bit on the wastewater, if this is to become a detailing shop, DSPS does have a separate review process for commercial wastewater. It's going to be a pretty expensive in-ground system. I know we dealt with the previous car wash that was just down the road from here on the corner of B&K. I forget what the name of that car wash was there, but behind the old gas station that is closed down on LCO. There's that car wash back there. They had an in-ground sewer system that cost quite a bit of money to properly handle that wastewater. So it might be something as, a separate holding tank waste for the solvents as opposed to, a clean water drain field. But that's all I have.
Okay, committee. Turn it over to you, Mr. Carrion.
I'll move to approve the rezone request for tax ID number 44295 from RR1 to commercial one.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Carrion. Do we have a second? Mr. Zarowski.
I will second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Carrion, a second by Mr. Zarowski to approve the rezone number 24-00009. Any more discussion? No more discussion. Mr. Schuman, you have any discussion?
I do not, sir, but are there any findings of facts he's going to identify?
We don't need to for a rezone is what I was just told.
No, you would.
Okay. All right, all right.
I mean, if somebody would like to make them, you certainly could, but if somebody would like to articulate findings of fact, you certainly can do that. Because this is a rezone, as Jay mentioned, it's a legislative decision. And under legislative decisions, the committee and then the county board is given very broad discretion in making your decision. So if you chose not to make findings of fact, I would argue that your staff report, the information you heard today, that would be the justification for your decision. But certainly, if you would like to make findings of fact, it's always good to have a more substantial record than not.
I would like to have the finding of facts because we've always put them in there even on the rezones.
I think findings of fact 1 through 6 are appropriate for this rezone.
Are you
Mr.
fine with that,
Carrion,
Mr. Carrion?
would you amend your motion to include the findings of facts 1 through 6 as Ms. Wilson had identified?
Yes, I do that.
Okay,
Yes.
And you would re-second that amendment? Thank you.
all right, thank you. Any more discussion? All right, Kathy, can we do a roll call?
Ron Buckholz.
Yes.
John Saralski.
Yes.
Kay Wilson. Tweed Schuman.
Yes.
No, this is the bottom. It's Marshall's an alternate.
Steve Carrianen.
Yes.
All in favor. Thank you.
Next, we have a rezone application. This is the Town of Hayward, rezone number 24-007. This was remanded back to the zoning committee by the county board. Since the remanding back by county board, the applicant has requested to withdraw the application. We do have a formal withdrawal request here that our office did receive. This was dated on July 4th. With the information that has been presented by the applicant and the requesting of the withdrawal, it would be my recommendation that zoning committee would accept the withdrawal and that we would not reopen the public hearing, thus rendering the rezone case dismissed.
Okay, we need a motion to approve that.
Yep.
Withdrawal?
Yes.
Okay,
Mr. Chairman, I'll make that motion that we approve that withdrawal and accept it, please.
okay, we have a motion by Mr. Schuman to accept the withdrawal. Do we have a second? And we have a second by Ms. Wilson. So all in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries to withdrawal.
Next, we have an item for closed session. This would be considering a motion to convene into closed session pursuant to Wisconsin statutes 19.85, parent 1, parent G, conferring with legal counsel for the governmental body who is rendering an oral or written advice concerning strategy to be adopted by the board with respect to litigation in which it is or is likely to become involved. This would be for discussion of multi-dwelling development, definitional issues, amendment to the Sawyer County zoning code, issues related to the property located at 14663 County Highway W, and other issues there too. At this point, we would need then a motion to go into closed session if that is the appetite of the committee.
Okay, all right. We need a motion to go into closed session.
I'll make that motion.
We have a motion by Ms. Wilson to go into closed session. Do we have a second?
I'll second that, Chairman.
Okay, and we have a second by Mr. Schuman to go into closed session. Okay, we are now in closed session.
At this time, members of the general public, you'll need to exit the room. Those that are online, you'll be placed in a waiting room and we will be pausing the meeting on our end. Once we come back and reconvene from closed session, we will bring you back into the room. Thank you.
Thank you. I was wondering how you stopped it.
I had different toolbars that I do now, but anyways, we've reconvened back into open session. I don't believe there's any additional discussion or action to take on those matters. Moving on to conditional use permit number 24-012, Town Around Lake Equity Trust Company, FBO of Joseph M. Johnson, IRA. The applicant has formally requested a withdrawal of the application. It would be the zoning administrator's recommendation that the committee accept the withdrawal, thus rendering the conditional use permit case closed.
Okay, I need a motion to approve the withdrawal for 24-012.
So moved.
Okay, we have a motion by Ms. Wilson. Do I have a second?
Second.
A second by Mr. Schuman. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries to withdraw.
All right, moving on, this is conditional use permit number 24-013, the Town of Hayward, owner T&K Roll-Offs LLC, part of the Southwest One Quarter. The Southwest One Quarter, this is lot 2 of CSM number 8797, tax ID 45117. Property is zoned industrial 1 with 6.35 acres. Permit is desired of the Sawyer County Code of Ordinances, Appendix D, Section 17.7, Parent B, Parent 3, for a solid waste disposal site. This would allow the public to bring municipal solid waste and construction debris to the facility where items would be sorted, recycled, and transferred to other facilities, including an out-of-county landfill. As part of my staff report, again, see additional documentation as included as per the applicant's statement. The conditional use permit request would fall under Appendix D of the Sawyer County Code of Ordinances, Section 17.7, Parent B, Parent 3, for a solid waste disposal site. This site would also ultimately serve as a transfer station for solid waste and construction material. The property is currently zoned industrial 1. It was previously the transfer station for waste management. The waste management site has been discontinued for several years, but there is a new owner that would like to proceed with reopening that transfer site use. The conditional use permit request would also include the allowance for additional construction trailer on site to be used in association with the industrial use and future additional buildings that may be needed. Additional buildings would require a land use permit and subject to town approval process. The Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources would have the other licensing requirements and permitting requirements for the solid waste disposal aspects. Currently, there are no other disposal sites in the immediate area that accept construction material waste. In conversations with the applicant, they were requesting hours of operation from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday and 8 to 12 on Saturdays, and then closed on Sundays. I have listed that as a potential condition within my staff report. But we do have some information from the Town of Hayward as well. The Town of Hayward did approve the request. Benjamin Kurzweil, Town Chair, Andrew Whitworth, Supervisor, Kayla Williamson, Supervisor, Gary Inhofe, Supervisor, Brenda Detloff, Supervisor, all approved. The only condition was based on the information provided to the town board that the hours of operation would be for 5 days per week as per the applicant. So I think we do need to have some additional discussions with the applicant as to, what their hours of operation would be. And then if you were to, if the applicant was agreeable to 5 days, I think we're fine. If the applicant would like to have that 8 to noon on Saturday, this committee has the ability to, basically set the conditions, but you could also make it a condition that they go back to the town and get acceptance of the Saturday opening. And we can have that further discussion when we get to that point. There were 4 additional notification letters sent out to adjacent property owners. None were returned with additional comments. That is all.
Okay, thanks, Jay. All right, I need a motion to go into public hearing on CUP number 24-013, please. Mr. Sorolski.
Make that motion. Go in here.
I'll second that.
Okay, then we have a second by Ms. Wilson to go into public hearing on CUP number 24-013. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed? Motion carries. We are now in public hearing. Is the applicant here? You wanna step forward and tell us what you want? Or what we need to know?
I guess for today, we would be looking to just be open from 7 a.m. till 5 p.m. potentially, Monday through Friday. And to achieve Saturday, if we need to chase that later on down the line, we can do that.
No, in order to potentially do that, you would have to come back in.
Go through the whole process again.
Yeah.
That's
Okay.
okay with us.
You're okay with that?
Yes.
Okay. All right, you have any questions for the applicant? Anybody? Mr. Schulman?
I do not.
All right, thank you. Is there anybody out there that wish to speak in favor of this CUP? Ms. Zilmer?
Linda Zilmer, Edgewater property owner, resident of the Village of Birchwood. I'm not speaking either in favor or opposed, but to the process questions I mentioned earlier. When this application material goes to the towns, and it's not viewable by the public on the county website, the town can only go by the application materials that they received, which I believe showed 5 days a week during the summer and 3 days a week during the winter. And so I understand that that was probably the discussion that was held at the town level as well, because the town had not received the staff report. So it's not just a publication matter or posting on the website, but I think town should also have the staff report, because the staff report pointed out different hours of operation, which included Saturday. So that's something that's come up in the past. And again, this month, I think one time that I remember was the town of Round Lake, a conditional use permit for horses, where everybody only wanted 2. And by the time the permit was approved, it was meant 3 to 4 times that. My question is with this, as I understand, the discussion was, one of the conditions was that there would be no hazardous materials at this site. And I believe construction materials often include asbestos. So I don't know if you would want to talk with the applicant about how they will be handling construction materials that potentially have asbestos. Thank you.
Thank you. Hey, is there anyone else out there that wants to speak in favor of this CUP? Anyone out there want to speak in opposition of this CUP? Anybody online, Jay?
Let me
No?
just double check. No, we lost quite a few and then no one really kind of came back. Just 2 people came back, but no,
Okay.
no hands raised.
All right. If no more, I need a motion to come out of public hearing on CUP number 24-013. Do I have a motion? Mr. Sorolski.
I'd like to make that motion to come out of the public hearing.
I'll second that.
Now we have a motion by Mr. Sorolski and a second by Mr. Carrion to come out of public hearing on CUP number 24-013. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries. We are now out of public hearing.
This is the discussion action in the town of Hayward. Right on the wrong spot. Discussion action, Town of Hayward, conditional use permit number 24-013, owner T&K Roll-Offs LLC. Legal description is previously read into record. This request is for Surrey County Code of Ordinances, Appendix D, Section 17.7, Parent B, Parent 3, for a solid waste disposal site. As part of what we heard from the applicant here this morning, who was agreeable to the conditions, the possible conditions, as included with my staff report, would be that the hours of operation would be 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday. They would need to obtain licensing requirements from the Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources, and that all other town, county, state, and federal laws are followed. As far as the aspects of hazardous waste material, it's something that I'm not familiar with. I would default to the licensing requirements from the Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources. I would think they would have oversight and monitor the potential for asbestos, unless the applicant has additional information to share on that.
Do you have any additional information, sir, to share on that?
We are required by the DNR to post on our sign that will be out by the road, that no asbestos is accepted. And if it comes in, it will leave with whoever brought it in.
Okay. All right.
And nowadays, there's not a lot of asbestos in new construction. And that's about 90% of our, would be 90% of our intake is new construction waste. You're building your house, you cut a board, you got this much left. That's what we're seeing. That's what we're getting a lot of. And if we do get asbestos in our personal dumpsters, the only solid waste facility around here is Waste Management in Weyerhaeuser. And that's where that gets hauled to. But it does not get emptied in that building.
All right. Thank you. All right, committee. Turn it over to you.
I was wondering about the DNR permit and licensing. Do they monitor the groundwater as well?
So adjacent to our property is a landfill that has been retired for numerous years. And there are monitoring wells downstream from us per se, as the water runs across the ground. The water shed from our building will travel to them monitoring wells. And if anything happens, the monitoring wells will pick it up. And in additional, there is a tank for the facility itself for any sort of leaching activity through the concrete. Underneath the concrete, there are pipes per se that all lead to that tank. So if a liquid gets dumped out in the building, it ends up in that tank, and then the proper company or disposal company handles that waste.
I've never been there. So can you describe are there dumpsters? And you
No,
mentioned a building. Do people dump? I was just
It's
curious.
a building, I think the dimensions are 50 by 60, 35-foot tall ceiling, in which the customer or myself backs in the building and empties onto a concrete floor. And then that material is sorted. What cannot be recycled gets loaded into a big semi, and then the semi goes to the Weyerhaeuser landfill.
Do you have a compactor as well?
No compactor. There used to be a compactor there, but we compact our trash into the semi via excavator.
Okay. All right. Thank you. So I need a motion to either approve or to deny.
You know, Mr. Chairman, Tweed Schuman
Yes.
here, I would make a motion to approve this. We need some type of construction area where we can dump this waste. Ever since Thompson has shut down, these people have nowhere to go. And there's still obviously construction going on in the area. As long as the conditions are in place and we follow the DNR regulations of this facility, I'll make a motion that we approve this CUP.
And with what finding of facts, Mr. Schuman?
I would have Supervisor Wilson help me with those. I don't have those in front of me right here.
Okay.
I'll second that motion with possible conditions 1 through 3 and findings of fact 1 through 6 and 1 through 7 and number 9.
That the condition though, as part of the staff report would be the
Yes.
5 days per week. though.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
And Mr. Schuman, do you agree with them finding
Yes.
the facts?
Yes, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay. Any more discussion? Roll call, Kathy?
Tweet Schuman,
Yes.
John Saralski,
Yes.
Ron Buckholz.
Yes.
Steve Carrianen,
Yes.
Kay Wilson. All in favor.
Okay,
Moving on, this is I guess a dual fold request. It's a rezone and a conditional use permit. First, we'll hear the rezone aspects. This is the public hearing in the town of Hunter, rezone number 24-010. Owner John and Trish Bagliadago, part of government lot 1, part of the northwest one quarter, the southwest one quarter, lot 2 of CSM number 7898. Also included as parcel 012-739-045111. Which is 10.62 total acres zoned to agricultural 2 and residential 1 and residential recreational 2. Also includes parcel 012-739-043204, which is tax ID 44788. It is 28.73 total acres zoned to agricultural 2 and forestry 1. Purpose of the request is to rezone approximately 3.25 acres of the agricultural 2 across both parcels and approximately 1.44 acres of residential recreational 1 for the total of 4.69 acres to be rezoned to residential recreational 2. With the approval of the rezone, this would result in a new lot, which has a preliminary survey map, which has been conducted. That new lot that they would survey out would be approximately 12.20 acres of residential recreational 2. The intent of the RR2 rezoning would then be for the expansion of a campground, which would be heard as the conditional use permit, which would be on the docket next. As part of my legal description, or I'm sorry, as part of my staff report, again, the purpose of the request is to rezone approximately 3.25 acres of agricultural 2 and 1.44 acres of RR1 for the total of 4.69 acres to be rezoned to RR2. The intent of the RR2 rezone would then be to expand an existing campground. The shoreline wetland overlay is not subject to change as part of this request. The additional maps are attached in my packet. This would be for the expansion of an additional 25 sites for the RV campground. The previous conditional use permit has authorized the amount of 40 sites, and the actual parameters of the campground will be further discussed as part of the conditional use permit request. This property was initially rezoned from forestry 1 to agricultural 2 back in 2004. At that time, the request was for a light hobby farming, including the ability to keep horses. The horses are no longer there, and the owner would like to expand upon the existing campground. With the proposed rezone to RR2, all of their zone district requirements would be met. The existing campground area is already zoned RR2, so the proposed request would not be viewed as spot zoning. The existing surrounding use is light residential and forestry. The current owner of this property also owns the land further to the north, all the way up to County Highway CC. The land north of this location is not subject to the rezone request. Town of Hunter, as part of their future land use maps included within the town comprehensive plan, shows this area as resort recreational, and a portion of it within rural residential. The resort recreational area would be in line with the proposed campground expansion request within the RR2 zone district. The rural residential area is defined as an area where higher density development is anticipated. It is recommended to keep lot sizes of 1.5 acres or larger in size. Ultimately, the intent of the rezone is to expand the campground, and the lot size would be larger than the 1.5 acres, but would not be for residential use. The Town of Hunter comprehensive plan further goes on to state that the future land use map delineates broad categories of future land uses. In some cases, the classification is consistent with existing uses. In other cases, it is to represent an anticipated shift. When and whether these areas should be rezoned, it should be mutually agreed upon the decision and discussion between the Town of Hunter and the Sawyer County Zoning Committee. As part of the action of the town board, motion was approved. Laura Rusk, Chair, Russell Claggett, Supervisor, Mark Phillips, Supervisor. As per their Conditions, this is for an after-the-fact request in the zone use to become compliant with the permitted use. It is not spot zoning. The property is adjacent to other RR2 properties. This is also in step with our current comprehensive plan, signed Patricia Swayfield, Town Clerk. There was 17 additional notification letters sent out to adjacent property owners. 0 were returned with additional comments. Before going into the public hearing process, I do want to expand a little bit on the conditional use permit aspect side of things because they do kind of go hand in hand here. This was something as far as the owner of the campground had started expansion of the campground previously. The sites are already there. They're already being rented. So this is somewhat of an after the fact approval process. I can certainly get more into details with the conditional use permit side of things. They're connected, but they are separate public hearing processes. So you really should be looking specifically at the rezoning merits for this one, and then we can further get into the conditional use permit aspects, but they do go hand in hand.
Okay. All right, thanks, Jake. All right, I need a motion to go into public hearing on rezone number 24-010.
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second? Okay, we have a motion by Ms. Wilson, second by Mr. Sorolski to go into public hearing on rezone number 24-010. All in favor, say aye. All opposed? Motion carries. We are now in public hearing. Is the applicants here? You want to come up and talk to the committee, ma'am? State your name and address for us, please.
Trish Bedagliaco, 7049 North Lakeshore Drive, Coudray, Blueberry Hill Resort. So we put in 19 new sites in this area that we're talking about where we had the horses. And originally we thought it was zoned for horses and for camping because of the campground license. So that's kind of why we're after the fact.
Okay. Anybody have any questions for us? Jay, you're okay with the after the fact?
Yeah, and we were notified by the town, this is probably going back about 2 years ago now. We were kind of looking through a bunch of the additional conditional use permit clauses. And unfortunately, this is not the first time that we've heard these kind of requests. So DAGCAP and the health department being an agent of the state, they have the actual licensing parameters of campgrounds. And they have a breakout of the licensing requirements from like a 0 to 25 sites, a 25 to 50 sites, a 50 to 75 sites, a 75 to 100 sites. And when campground owners look at their DATCAP license, they think, oh, well, I'm at 60 sites. My license permits me up to 50 to 75. I'm just going to go and expand another 15 sites and go to 75. And yes, they may be in requirements of their DATCAP license, but that's not authorized by the conditional use permit you'd still need to obtain via zoning. So there's that disconnect with campground owners that there's kind of two approval processes as part of this. That was the situation with the Bagley Dagos and Blueberry Hill Resort and Campground. And they are, at this point doing the right thing. They are coming in to get the proper permits to do so. So I have no objections.
Okay, all right. Thank you. Thank you, ma'am. Does anyone out there want to speak in favor of this rezone? Does anyone out there want to speak in opposition of this rezone? Nobody online, I take it, Jay?
Seeing no hands raised.
Okay. All right, I need a motion to come out of public hearing on rezone number 24-010. Ms. Wilson.
I make a motion that we,
You'll second it?
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Schuman, a second by Ms. Wilson to come out of public hearing on rezone number 24-010. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. We are now out of public hearing.
This is the discussion action, the town of Hunter, rezone number 24-010. Owner John and Trish Bagliadago. Legal description is previously read into record. The request is to rezone approximately 3.25 acres of agricultural 2 across 2 separate parcels of land that were previously read into record, and approximately 1.44 acres of residential recreational 1 for a total of 4.69 acres subject to the RR2 rezone request. As part of my staff report, for those that couldn't necessarily read this, again, we have two different parcels of land. They're requesting to rezone that small portion of agricultural 2 in this northern parcel, and then this portion of agricultural 2 and this portion of residential recreational 1, all to be rezoned as RR2. And then they would have a survey map that would come back in and block this out as its own separate lot. And we do have that as a pending CSM lot creation. Okay, so.
All right. Committee, turn it over to you. What's your?
Because this is after the fact, are they being charged extra fees?
Generally, no, we wouldn't do after the fact fees for rezones or conditional use permits. It would just be for land use permits. I don't believe I have anything memorialized on a fee schedule that would require ×2 permit fees for rezones and or conditional use permits, even to the extent variances. We've never charged double permit fees on those. It would just be the land use permit aspects.
Okay, do I get a motion? Mr. Sorolski.
I'd like to make the motion to accept the application.
Findings of fact?
I would second that, Chairman.
What's your finding of facts, Mr. Sorolski?
Finding of fact 1 through 13.
And Mr. Schuman, you seconded?
Yes, sir.
We have a motion and a second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on the floor to approve. Any more discussion? If not, roll call, Kathy?
Ron Buckholz.
Yes.
Kay Wilson. John Saralski.
Yes.
Tweed Schuman.
Yes.
Steve Carriennen. All in favor.
Okay. All right.
Moving on, then this is the conditional use permit. Conditional use permit number 24-014, owner John and Trish Bagliadago. Legal description is the same as the rezone. I will just indicate the parcel numbers for that. It is 012-739-04-5111, as well as 012-739-04-3204. If rezone 24-010 is approved by or ratified for the zone district change by county board, this would then create a new 12.20 acre parcel that would be rezoned to RR2. The conditional use permit then would be as per the Sawyer County Code of Ordinances, Appendix D, Section 17.3, Parent B, Parent 1, for the use of a campground, subject to Section 6.7 of that same Code of Ordinances. The permit then would be desired for the expansion of an existing campground for an additional 25 sites that would total 65 sites. As part of the staff report, again, the request would be for a 25 unit expansion to an existing campground for a total of 65 sites. With the potential approval of rezone 24-010, additional maps are attached in the packet that show the campground layout. The campground would meet all minimum standards as specified in Section 6.6 of the Sawyer County Code of Ordinances, Appendix D, and Wisconsin State Chapter ATCP 79 for campground regulations. If the campground layout is to change, a new map must be placed on file with the Zoning and Conservation Department, approved by the Sawyer County Zoning Committee. The proposed expansion, again, would meet all other setbacks and density requirements. here again, we've alluded to a little bit, but it was brought to the attention of the Sawyer County Zoning Department a couple of years ago that it appeared that additional sites were being added onto the existing campground. In conversations with the owner, they were under the impression that the campground license would permit up to 75 sites. While this is true, DACAP has licensing breakdowns. The DACAP licensing of campgrounds is not the same requirements as the county zoning conditional use permit approval process. We've heard this several times and it's confusing aspects, and we're continuing to work on that with DACAP, that not only they would require the state licensing to operate a campground, but they would also need to be verifying the conditional use permit approval processes for the additional sites. Conversations with the applicant, they are wanting to do the right thing and apply for the proper permits. They admitted that 12 additional sites were added within the last 3 years, and that there was an additional 7 sites that were added approximately 17 years ago. The total number of existing sites would equal 59, with a permitted number of 40, with a request number of 65. This conditional use permit request and potential approval would retroactively approve the already installed sites. If the CUP is denied, enforcement action would be conducted on the additional 12 sites that were added approximately 3 years ago. And ultimately, we need to seek legal advice, opinion for the additional 7 sites that were added approximately 17 years ago, as these statute of limitations may have passed. All new added non-permitted sites and future proposed sites would meet the ordinance requirements. As part of a list of potential conditions, I've added that campgrounds will comply with the requirements of Wisconsin Admin Code ATCP 79. All other federal, state, county, town, and local laws are followed. This would include the Sawyer County zoning ordinance setbacks from wetland areas, floodplains, and navigable water setbacks. There is a man-made pond that is on the property. We heard kind of a couple months ago from a proposed subdivision plat where these man-made ponds would only have a 40-foot setback requirement as opposed to the 75. That all permits, fees, and campground approvals and inspections required by the state ATCP or DACAP must be obtained. The maximum number of sites be limited to 60. That all setbacks included to campers, park models, trailers, and tents must meet a 50-foot setback to adjacent property lines. That no mobile homes would be allowed. That all lighting must be down lighting. All waste and septic must comply with the requirements of the state of Wisconsin and Sawyer County regulations. Currently, all proposed campsites within the CUP request would be on portable transfer tanks, which is approved by ATCP for licensing of campgrounds. That sites can only be operated to the public from April 1st to December 1st. That a manager or designee must be available 24 hours per day. And quiet hours are from 10 p.m. to 8 a.m. every day. And that no fireworks or firearms are allowed. By action of the town board, motion was approved. Laura Rusk, Russell Claggett, Mark Phillips, supervisor. They had additional discussion, and their motion to approve the CUP was for the purpose of bringing the 19 non-compliant campsites into compliance. The town approval is limited only to the existing number of sites, which they have on here is a total of 57 sites. Any additional sites would require additional conditional use permit applications. So again, as my staff report had indicated, there's a little bit of a difference in the amount of sites that we have on record of being there. But ultimately, my conditions that I had that the maximum sites be as 60, I would then default to the town's comments and recommendations that the total number of sites not to exceed 57. There were 17 additional notification letters sent out to adjacent property owners, 0 returned with comments. That is all.
Okay. All right, I need a motion to go into public hearing on CUP number 24-014, please. Mr.
Motion
Sorrell.
made.
And that,
We have a motion by Mr. Sorrelski and a second by Ms. Wilson to go into public hearing on CUP number 24-014. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, motion carries. We are now in public hearing. Ma'am, do you want to speak again on the CUP or?
So I just want to say that we have total 57 sites.
And you agree with everything that,
Yes. We don't want more sites. We don't want to get any bigger.
Okay,
Are you agreeable to the other conditions as I explained in the staff report? I can reread them for you if you'd like. It would be, to get the requirements of the admin code ATCB 79, which you're already doing, that all other county, town, state, and federal laws are followed. That all permit fees and plan approvals be inspected by DAGCAP, that the maximum number of sites be limited to 57.
Yep.
That all setbacks for campers, park models, trailers, tents, or other seasonal sites be a minimum of 50 feet to adjacent property lines. That no mobile homes are allowed. That all lighting must be down lighting. That all wastewater and septic requirements meet the requirements of Wisconsin code and Sawyer County regulations. Currently, I believe you're on portable transfer tanks, which is approved by the licensing requirements of ATCP. That the operation to the public be from April 1st to December 1st. That a manager or designee be available 24 hours per day. That quiet hours are from 10 p.m. to 8 a.m. every day, and that no fireworks or firearms are allowed.
Yes.
So you've heard from the applicant, they're agreeable to those conditions. Okay, that's fine. We don't need to.
all right, just double check. Okay, does anyone out there want to speak in favor of this CUP? Mr. Criswell, go ahead. 3 minutes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Douglas Kurzweil, 11055W Arrow Road, Hayward, Wisconsin. I'm not going to really speak in favor or against, but I do want to mention or reiterate something that was brought up earlier, and that is the compressed time frame, the process problems. Town of Hunter had to call a special meeting on short notice of the Planning Commission. And we didn't find out that this was an ATF until the applicant informed us and advised us. The applicant also forthrightly and volunteered much more details about the thing than what was available from the county. Planning Commission never got to see the county staff report. And I do believe at the town board meeting, they had just recently gotten some of the information from the county. So I think this whole process, I mean, oftentimes when I'm kind of getting behind with my work and everything, and I get pressed, for productivity and to be more timely, I ask people, do you want it done fast or do you want it done right? And I think if we want to be very diligent and certain that we're getting all of this rezone, conditional use, all of this zoning stuff, if we want to make sure we're getting it done right, we got to give it more time. We can't be compressing time frame and requiring towns to have special planning committee meetings or special board meetings because the paperwork is getting there from the county too late sometimes to even get it on an agenda, on a regular agenda. But I think that's something that needs to be considered going forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Kurzweil. All right, does anyone else out there want to speak in favor of this CUP? If not, is there anyone out there that wants to speak in opposition of this CUP? Okay, if not, need a motion to come out of public hearing on CUP number 24-014, please.
So moved.
So moved.
We have a motion by Ms. Wilson and a second by Mr. Schuman to come out of public hearing on CUP number 24-014. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. We are now out of public hearing.
This is the discussion action of the town of Hunter conditional use permit number 24-014. Owner John and Trish Bagliadago. Legal description is previously read into record. Permit is desired for the campground expansion, which would be for an additional, correct me if I'm wrong here, is it 19 sites for a total of 57? Thank you. As per Sawyer County Code of Ordinances, Appendix D, Section 17.3, Parent B, Parent 1, with the staff report requirements as the list of potential conditions that the applicant has agreed upon. Speaking just as some clarification for, staff report aspects, generally these staff reports are prepared for the zoning committee. Yes, we want to get all the relative information to the town so that they can make an informed decision, but my specific write-ups are to help this committee. I'm paid by the county, I'm not paid by the town to do their work, but yet getting their correct information to them. This information was delivered to the town a week before their town board meeting. So I don't understand where the aspects that they didn't have time to get that meeting scheduled is necessarily coming from. We also heard that additional information was gathered from the applicant at their board meeting. I don't know when I would have been able to obtain that additional information from the applicant outside the conversations that we had when we initially set up the conditional use permit forms. It seems like during a public hearing process, whether it was at the town level or this committee level, that is where that additional information comes from.
Okay. All right. Committee, turn it over to you.
I'll make a motion to approve conditional use permit number 24-014 for expansion of an existing campground for an additional 19 sites for a total of 57 sites.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Carrion. Do we have a second?
Would you want to add the rest of the conditions as listed in the staff report as well as
I will
findings of
add
facts?
all 12 conditions as listed there, and I think there's 13 findings of facts as well. Yes.
Thank you.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that, Chairman.
Okay, Ms. Wilson already seconded it, Mr. Schuman. Thank you. Okay, we have a motion and a second on the floor. Any more discussion? Rebecca, you said you wanted to speak on something.
Yeah, let's go.
You have any other discussion?
Just following up on Jay's point, I just wanted to point out from a legal perspective, there's no requirement that Jay do staff reports, even for this committee. His statutory obligation is to the county and it's to this committee. I can remember a time in Sawyer County where there were no staff reports. And so I just want you to understand that from a legal perspective, he does not have an obligation to deliver them to the towns at a certain time. He doesn't even have to deliver them to the towns at a certain time unless there's some MOU between the towns and the county that I'm not aware of. And he's correct that he essentially is paid for by the county. There are some counties in this state that towns actually pay the county for planning services. The county's not getting paid for Jay's services. And if, towns aren't happy, there are statutory mechanisms that they can use to get out of county zoning. There are statutory mechanisms they could use now. There are statutory mechanisms that have just been passed by our legislature. So if, the towns aren't pleased with the process that comes through Jay and his office, there are other remedies that the town could exercise, or any town could exercise. That's it.
Okay, and I want to just throw one thing out there too on this, as long as we're in discussion, that we're hearing that the towns don't get it in time to act on it.
They're not getting my staff reports sometimes before their plan commissions meet. I try to get all the information, at least to the town boards. But really after this meeting, I'm already starting to get information for August, which is just crazy to think about because this zoning committee meeting is the third Friday where town plan commissions are the first week of the month. It's just a lot condensed into a time frame, but it's not even to the aspects where even if we were to delay that process, I'd be working 3 months into the future and everything kind of gets jumbled. So again, I will attempt to get the staff reports to the town plan commissions before they meet, always before the town boards meet, but ultimately other deadlines are there as well. So
Well,
they always get the relative information. They're always going to get the packet of information. They just may not have my staff report that has some additional summary to it.
But my thing is that they're saying that they're not getting the information, but we get town approval.
Yeah.
So they gotta be looking at something.
Yeah, so the maps and the request would all come to the towns well before their meetings. This was a unique one where the town plan commission kind of had it was right around the 4th of July holiday. So that was one of the aspects where they had to call a special meeting on this one. We had gotten the information to them a week before their town board. And this is the other thing with planning commissions is we don't always know when they meet. They hold special meetings for plan commissions. Some have them listed as to when their plan commissions will always meet. Some hold them right before town board meetings. Some of them have a moving schedule of a plan commission. I mean, one of the things I guess we should do is reach out to individual towns and ask them blatantly, when is your town plan commission? Because the more information I'm able to get to the towns of when
Right.
you're holding these meetings, that helps me then as well, so.
Okay, Ms. Wilson, go ahead.
I would just like to say, I thank you for that staff report because I think there's valuable information for us at the
Yes.
town level, and thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, any more discussion? Okay, roll call, Kathy?
Steve Carrion. Kay Wilson. Ron Buckholz.
Yes.
John Saralski. Tweed Schuman.
Yes.
All in favor?
All right, thank you. Number 8, new business, any other business that may come before this committee? Okay, if not, I want to thank everybody.
Chair, can I just speak real quick?
Real quick,
As a discussion that is having, I've contacted the street today. Benjamin Kurtzwell, 16040W West Lane, Chairman for the town of Hayward. I think, again, with some of the staff report issues, my concern is, again, with the T&K roll-off situation, we had a Sawyer County application that stated up to 5 days a week. When the staff report came out, there was a Saturday 8 to 12. This is one of the concerns I have for being on town board, that we did not have that at our town board meeting. We approved up to 5 days, and then it was only after the staff report and looking at other things and talking to the applicants that I realized there was another day on the table here. So I totally understand where the towns are coming from about getting all the information, and I also understand that the staff reports are a courtesy to the towns. However, it does concern me that I really feel the towns and the county should maybe strive to work together a little better, and we understand limitations of zoning, as opposed to the first reactions being that we can pull out of county zoning. I think that's really a disconcerting, disheartening comment made by Mr. Roker. And the towns do understand that that is an option. And believe me, some of them are looking at that if the situation between the towns and the county continues to deteriorate. But at this point, we really appreciate all the information the county gives us, and we would just ask, please, to try to get as much of that and all the information to us before we make our decisions and send it on to the county for approval or denial. Thank you very
all
much.
right, thank you. Okay, no more business, we are adjourned. Thank you, everybody. No, I think we got to get signed.